This is going to be full of spoilers. A slug, I don't know why we chose a slug. Took it from YA to middle grade for me because that is so freaking lame. Some are like juicy bacon on a hot skillet. Brandon Sanderson. That's all I've been hearing about these days is Brandon Sanderson. From Jamie Fook to Farah to Rachel Catherine, everybody's reading Brandon Sanderson. And I want to know what the hype is about. I know the most popular series people are currently reading is the Stormlight Archive series as well as the Mistborn Saga. But I'm starting with Skyward. This is a YA, I want to say space opera, but I'm not entirely sure because it's not fully sci-fi, I think. This is the explanation of what a space opera is, and I think it falls under that. It is YA, so I thought it would be the easiest to approach. Let's read the synopsis together. The world has been under attack for hundreds of years. An alien race called the Krell leads onslaught after onslaught from the sky in a never-ending campaign to destroy humankind. Humanity's only defense is to take it to their ships and fight the enemy in the skies. Pilots have become the heroes of what's left of the human race, and Spensa has always dreamed of becoming one of them. But the chances of that happening were slim to none, at least until the Krill doubled their attacks. It's possible that humanity's desperation to survive will finally take her skyward. I didn't understand a fucking word. Is that just me? That is so confusing. I have no idea what is happening. However, as you can see, I already started this. I actually only came up with filming this idea this morning. We come to you from page 51. So I am 50 pages in. Our main female character, her name is Spensa. She comes from a line of pilots. Her dad, however, was disgraced for being a coward. When they had this huge attack happening in the prologue, when she was 7 years old, her dad, he fled. He fled while this attack was happening, and she's now been named a coward. Jumping forward to chapter 1, she's now 17 years old, and she gets to kind of choose which profession she wants to go into, and naturally she wants to be a pilot because she wants to reclaim her dad's name, and she wants to prove to everybody that she's not a coward too. She doesn't believe that her dad was initially a coward. She thinks he just died in this crash and people made things up. However, she has been shunned, obviously, for being a coward, and no one wants to be her friend. No one hangs out with her. She is determined to take this pilot's test. However, when it comes to the day before her pilot's test, she kind of hears a rumor, or someone tells her basically that this rumor is happening, that even if she passes the test, no one's going to let her into flight school because she's going to be a coward the same as her dad. So she throws a little tantrum, goes off into the caves, does all these things, discovers an old ship, and she's like, wait a minute, what if they were actually testing me if I was being a coward by calling me a coward and saying that I wasn't going to pass this test? Maybe that was the real test. So she goes into her testing hall. She's literally bloodied and whatever because she went through the caves and had this whole ordeal. She sits down for the test and they give her a different test from everybody else. And these tests are all the classes that she missed at school because she thought that she didn't need it because she wanted to be a pilot. So she writes this test. She sits in the hall after everybody's left and she kind of is discouraged because she's literally been told now to her face that even if she was the best, she could never be a pilot because of what her dad did. So she sits in this hall while everybody's partying, doing their graduation things and is getting ready to get results and whatever, and she kind of just gets up and she goes to get someone's test and starts filling it out, because if you are a legacy you don't have to write the test, you can just show your parents' pin, you're naturally in. So she writes her test. This guy comes in and she's like, he looks familiar but I can't really see, it's dark in here. Anyway, they have a conversation and he's now gonna let her into this flight school. So that's what happened in the last 50 pages. As you can see, this is going to be full of spoilers. I'm just going to walk through this whole book with you guys. Let's understand it together. So far, I think the writing is easy enough. There are phrases and terms that are being used that is just going over my head, but I don't think it's of any importance yet to the story. There are also diagrams over here. That makes it very interesting because they do talk about all the different crafts that they have, and obviously they live up in space. Let me show you the map. I think I'm jumping ahead a little bit, but this is just our first check-in. I think I'll make more notes as we go along. That is the map that we're working with, is where the flight school is, and she lives in Ingenious over there. So I don't know, they live in the deep caverns and their families crash landed there and they've just been there for ages. But like I said, this is going to be full of spoilers. I'm going to walk through my whole thought processes with you guys. I think I might do part by part because I've just entered part 2, as you can see over here. Let's see how long part 2 is. Part 2 ends at page 177 and starts at 155. So we have approximately 120 pages where I'll make notes and extensively think about what I'm going to say rather than just come on here and not have much to say. But I'm excited to discover this. Like I said, it's going to be full of spoilers. If you do want to read the series without spoilers, I'd suggest clicking off now. But if you're anything like me, I love watching these breakdown videos and trying to understand what is going on. I will make notes chapter by chapter. I'll pop in when I can. Hopefully I'll pop in just at part 3 and then we can break everything down. For now, that is the intro. It's already 7 minutes, but very excited to see what I think of this and to see if I'm going to continue this series. I know Brandon Sanderson is a very, very, very well liked, and I'm hoping that I like him too. We completed part 2 and made it to part 3. I'm currently on page 177, which is the beginning of part 3. I kind of tried to summarize what happened in part 2 from chapter 7 to chapter 19, which is quite a lot to get through. I don't know. I just thought I'd try this video format and let me know if you guys like it or not. I'm assuming it can come across pretty boring with me just yapping on about it. But if you have read this book, please feel free to weigh in the comments. And if you haven't, like I said, if you don't like spoilers, I'd suggest clicking out now, because this is basically a synopsis or a sequence of events of everything that happened between chapter 7 and 19. So here we go. Buckle in. So we start off with Spensa starting flight school. She has been admitted by Mongrel, who is her dad's ex-flightmate. I'm sure I said that in the previous check-in, but he kind of just overrides the principal, or she's called the admiral, but I think she's the chief of this base, and he has gone over her head and allowed Spensa in so that she can train in his classroom. He's allowed to do that. He can't obviously do any other commands, but because he's an instructor, he's allowed to allow anyone into his classroom that he deems fit. Spensa isn't really sure if the guy that she did the entrance exam with, her best friend Rig, she's not sure if he made it in because he was called last minute into a meeting after his entrance exam. Upon entering this flight school database, Spensa actually makes a friend or an acquaintance, and her name is Camelin. But Spensa is so fucking weird. She just says the most out-of-pocket weird things ever. But luckily for her, Camelin is fucking weird as well and quotes things from people that we don't even know about. They explore the campus, and through this we get more of like world building and kind of political side of things, but there isn't a lot. It's mostly like the founding families or the people who were there but with like the greatest battle, and those are the people who are just allowed to enter flight school without even being tested because they're legacies. But they kind of go through that a little bit, and the base and the layout and everything that kind of is surrounding them. So they're building up where they are, and I guess this is where most of the things are going to take place. The base is described as well as being on top of everything. They have caverns, like I said, and they basically live underground, and this military base is right on top of everything, which is more accessible to these aliens that invade and kind of attack them. However, the aliens are never really described. We don't know what they look like. We don't know what their aim is. We don't know anything about them, and I feel like I don't know. I don't even think that everybody else knows what they look like. They just come into their airspace and then they attack and they fight back. That's all we kind of know. But Spensa is also part of these founding families. However, because of her tainted past with her dad's reputation having defected, she is not seen as a founding family. We then meet all her fellow flightmates, or her teammates, shall I say. So there's 10 of them who train together, and they are a flight together, and none of them actually know who Spensa is. They don't know that she's the daughter of a coward. So this is making her feel a lot more relaxed. But obviously we know that at some point they're going to find out. That is very, very obvious. Because Spensa is so arrogant and she has just this weird bravado for absolutely no fucking reason. It's really annoying, I'm not going to lie. She makes an enemy already. So one of her flightmates, they just cross swords, and she just says the weirdest out-of-pocket things, like I said, and it is really annoying. But she's already made an enemy of one of her flightmates, and obviously that's not great to start off with. As they start classes, we actually find out as well that most people don't graduate flight school. They either die on the battlefield, or they call it washout, which is dropping out basically. So a lot of them either do one of the others, and the odds are basically 1 or 2 out of the 10 will make it through to become a pilot, which is jarring for Spensa because she thought if you got into flight school you'd definitely make it. She didn't realize that you actually have to participate in active battles. I'm going to mention Mongrel Mongrel a lot, but his name is actually Cobb, but it's his like call name. So it's a little flight name that they have for each other, like a nickname. So his name is Mongrel, and he was, like I said, her dad's ex-flight mate. He kind of is taking her under his wing, but not in a polite, nice way. He's very serious, and he told her straight, like, this is going to be hard. No one likes you. No one wants you here. I'm going to try and vouch for you, but you need to do the work. You need to show them that you're worthy of being here. He kind of reprimands her and puts her in her place, because a lot of the time she's so fucking hot-headed that she'll honestly just jump on anything and just say the most weirdest things. I'll read you some quotes that I have in a minute, but honestly, it is annoying. It is so fucking annoying. I cannot. She's like, she just feels really immature. She also has absolutely no respect for authority. Like, if she has something to say, she'll just fucking say it. I've said my bit. Just as like lessons begin to start, Rig walks in, which is her friend from school, and he actually passed the test. He got the highest score ever in the history of these tests, and he actually got an award. That's why he was late for class, and he did make it. So she actually has a friend or a confidant that's there that she actually knows, even though, like I said, no one knows who she is, and I don't think Rig would tell on her. We start lessons, and they are learning to fly via simulation, which is the same as we do here on Earth anyway. They learn to like go up and down and kind of navigate the hovercraft, and not a hovercraft, spacecraft, I would say, and they're just learning how to navigate and go up and down. And during this, an actual attack happens, and their team is called out to help support an actual team. So they are basically just thrown in. They just basically learned how to drive. They're having to go and help with an attack. Half of them can't even hover properly. It's quite a stressful situation, but Spensa is so freaking excited. Obviously, she's wanted this her entire life. She kind of gets ahead of herself, and she gets super cocky and does things that she's not supposed to do, because there is a chain of command with anything in life. There is a chain of command, especially in a military base. She just fucks up. But luckily, her flight leader, which was basically just announced by Cobb or Mongrel, he is from a founding family. He's actually one of the people who didn't complete the test, and he was the first one to walk to the front of the classroom and actually just put his name on the test, and he was let in. He is part of this team. However, like I said, he's from a founding family. His mom's a pilot, his dad's a pilot, so he's been flying ships for a very long time, and thank God he was there, because if he wasn't, Spensa would be dead. Anyway, they end up engaging with the enemy, obviously, because they had to step in, but they weren't actually supposed to be in active battle. They were mostly supposed to be decoys, but when something happens, they kind of have to step in. And like I said, Spensa fucks up because her flight leader and his wingmate are kind of navigating and trying to do this certain maneuver, and she just decides to jump in because, you know, she's meant for this. She thinks that flying is also supposed to just come naturally, and she thought she'd just feel it, but when G-force hits her too hard, she's like so close to passing out, and she ends up like making a huge mistake. But thanks to her new friend Cameron, the whole thing is resolved, and they kind of go back down to the ground. Basically the day is over, so Mongrel just calls them all together and tells them, you know what, let's just round things up and get you settled in your dorms. Unfortunately for Spence, because she's so well hated well hated, that's a weird word to say, but yeah, she's so hated. She does not get room and board, unfortunately. She needs to leave the premises every night and can only come in for classes, so she is escorted off the property. Obviously, it's really embarrassing. She doesn't want to tell anyone, so she doesn't actually even end up going home. She ends up going into the caves and setting up camp in this old ship that she found underground. In the spaceship, she kind of uses the cockpit as her bedroom, but she also discovers this weird specimen, which is like a slug, and the slug is described as being yellow with blue spines on its back, and it makes like a fluting noise. I feel like this is going to have relevance later on in the story, so I just made note of that. A slug, I don't know why we chose a slug. The next day coming into school, she uses their facilities to shower and whatever because she doesn't have this on the ship. Rig comes in and says goodbye to everyone because he has now decided to drop out, because during the attack that happened the previous day, his ship actually got hit by a beam. Shields were up, but just the impact and the shock of it made him think that this wasn't for him. He didn't want to die. He didn't want to put his life on the line. So he decides to quit. And this sends Spensa into a little spiral, a little tantrum. And she's like, I can't believe you flaked out. This is supposed to be our dream. He's like, no, it was your dream. We were friends. I didn't have any friends. You didn't have any friends. So your dream inadvertently became my dream. But I just wanted to pass the test. I just wanted to do well in the test. I never wanted to become a pilot. So he ends up leaving, and she's super sad about this, obviously, because it was her only friend. For the next couple of chapters, we just follow along them learning different maneuvers and weapon handling and getting better at flying and using their craft. So it's basically just them in their lesson. Spensa then starts to kind of make her spacecraft and her cavern more livable. She ends up like building a small kitchen on the side, and she starts fixing the ship. She's forming this little relationship with the slug. While she's developing this relationship with the slug, she realizes that the slug can actually mimic. So it mimics words that she's used in the past, but it still makes that fluting sound. But he'll like mimic words like gone and go and done and work. So it's weird. It's weird. I just can't imagine this creature in my head. I just feel like it's a fuzzy caterpillar. She names the slug Doom Slug the Destroyer, which I found was fucking lame. I just rolled my eyes. That just took it from YA to middle grade for me because that is so freaking lame. I couldn't. Doom Slug. Come on. It will make more sense to you when I read the quotes that she always talks about, which is fucking lame once again. Then we move back into the academy and some more training and see what everybody is good at and get better at. Spensa feels something weird in her helmet, like it's poking her head, and she pulls it off, and there's like these special bolts or weird bolts in her helmet, and she goes to the teacher saying there's something wrong with my helmet, and he's like, no, they changed your helmet out this morning so they can check on your brain waves and get a bio reading on your brain. And she's like, well, I think you should just warn all the other kids because it's very uncomfortable. And he's like, no, it's only for you. So I'm assuming that's a way of the Admiral to kind of use it as an excuse to kick her out of the campus. We don't know this. We don't know this just yet. But then we reach chapter 15 and they find out. Everybody finds out because she just pushes people's buttons, and she pushed the wrong person's buttons. And Jorgen, who is the guy that wrote the test and the guy who was her enemy, and he's her flight leader as well, and she just disregards every command that he makes. So he tells everybody who she is and whose daughter she is. She's absolutely devastated by this and super fucking angry. She leaves in a fit of rage and ends up doing the most dumbest thing. She goes to his car and pulls out his battery and uses it in order to power up her old ship that she has in her cabin. When she wakes up in the morning, she hadn't actually connected the battery to the ship. She just lies there and she's actually thinking about the choices she just made, and she's like, fuck, if anybody finds out that I stole this battery, I'm out of the school and I'll prove everybody right that I can't take it mentally. But she plugs it in anyway, and the ship is completely different from any other ship that she's ever encountered, and this ship is actually AI. So it has artificial intelligence and it can actually communicate with her intelligently. But during, I think, its crash or whatever, it kind of was deactivated for about, I think, 150 years, and some of the data is missing now, and the ship can't remember where it came from, where it was made. It just remembers that its last command was to lay low and stay out of fights. She kind of talks to the ship, and then she's like, you know what, this could actually be something. And she gets Rig involved, with the guy that dropped out and was her best friend, because he's good at engineering, he's good at a lot of things. So she recruits him in to help her start fixing the ship. The ship's name is Mbot. We're not sure if it's Murderbot or Murderous Bot, but she's assuming it's something like that. But Mbot, like I said, is intelligent and can have conversations, and while they're having this little conversation, he pipes up that there is a debris storm, as well as like 43 vessels or ships being detected. So she needs to now get from her cabin to the school because she's got a feeling that her flight is going up for it. And because she can't stay on campus, she lives like 30 minutes away in the caverns. She has to run all the way back to campus and join in this fight. She just knew it would happen. When she gets to the school, she jumps into her craft, but obviously everybody's left, and she's told that she's 20 minutes behind. She doesn't have time for all the correct gear or the correct clothing and whatever, but she just gets in and she jumps straight into the fight. This battle is really, really intense actually, and the most intense I think for rookies. Like, I don't know how they sent them up there when they're just learning how to fly and fight and whatever, but they end up losing 2 of their team members, and one of them is actually her crush, which is really, really sad because they were all just so young and it happens right in front of their eyes. They don't even really have time to grieve because they're still in the middle of this battle. At this point, Spensa's instincts kick in and she jumps straight in with her flight leader as his wingmate. The 2 of them just work together to get things sorted out. She kind of just holds it all inside, which is good because she has a big mouth on her. That is everything that happened, like I said, but let me give you my thoughts, because I did sprinkle in some of my thoughts, but not all my thoughts. There aren't as many as you would think. I'm enjoying this book so far. I can't actually wait to pick it up. That is why I haven't even gone for my walk today. I'm going to go for my walk after this because I just wanted to keep reading and I don't want to go on the treadmill and not have my book with me. So I thought, let me just summarize everything and then get into this. I'm really, really enjoying the book. I'm finding that it is very very simple. It's not really difficult to read. The world building isn't complex. The politics isn't complex. I was very confused when I read the synopsis, but getting into the book was so easy. And I think I'm hoping it's because it's YA, but I'm not sure if his other books are more complicated. But the world building is really, really easy to understand. I don't like our main female character. I really can't stand her. I find her fucking annoying. She's just so childish, and like the things that she does, I'm like, ugh. At some points, like you do feel sorry for her because of the circumstances, but at the same time, she could have dealt with it a lot differently. I just get so cringed out by the things that she says, and it's like I said, out of context or out of pocket, and it's just really, really annoying. So I'm going to read you the 3 quotes that made me think that, fuck, this female character is so annoying. What I'm going to read takes place after that first battle that I spoke about, and she's speaking to Jordan. So she's like, "You watch yourself. When you are broken and mourning your fall from grace, I will consume your shadow in my own and laugh at your misery." Like, what the fuck does that even mean? Like, what the fuck? Like, that is so, they're not even talking about anything that's remotely close to what she's saying. But the next one takes place in her cave, and she is catching rats to eat. So she's like, "Those rats shall soon know the wrath of my hunger, dispensed through tiny coils of justice." Why does that just seem so stupid? I don't know if it's stupid. I don't understand her logic. Honestly, I don't. And then the last one I have, I don't know if you guys find this as dumb as I do, but because it's out of context, but just that sentence structure and the things that she's saying, I'm like, it's like people who just constantly quote movies as well. It's like out of context, it doesn't make sense, I guess, but it's so lame. This is chapter 13, and it happens after she basically is denied room and board, and everybody comes into the classroom and they're all talking about the breakfast that they ate and how there was real bacon. And she said, "I will let my wrath burn within me until the day it explodes and vengeance is mine. Until then, let it simmer like juicy bacon on a hot skillet." That's not funny. Like, that's not funny at all. That for me, that there's no humor in that. Like, maybe it's just my sense of humor and I'm not a massive nerd. That doesn't even make me want to laugh. Like, it's just so fucking lame. And she has these little bursts of sayings like that constantly, and I'm like, where is it coming from? It's so out of context. Like, I think that because Spensa was shunned her whole life and kind of an outcast, that she just struggles with social cues and social interactions. Like, she just doesn't know how to be around people, which I guess is why she says all those stupid things. She grew up with her gran and her mother, and obviously her dad had passed, and her gran was basically her best friend and just told her all these like folklore stories and war stories, and I think that influenced why she speaks like she does. Like, she thinks she's some sort of warrior even though she's never had to battle anyone in her entire life. She also just doesn't fit in anywhere, but it's because of her mouth. Like, she just doesn't shut up. She doesn't know when to shut her mouth. But I really like Mongrel, like / Cobb. He's my favorite character so far. He's really harsh on her, and he kind of puts her in her place all the time. And when he's spoken, like, she kind of tries to acknowledge that because he's put his neck on the line for her. So I feel like he's going to be a great mentor / like father figure for her further down the line. I'm not entirely sure. Obviously, I've not got that far, but I'm excited to see how that relationship does evolve, and I'm excited to see like what kind of insight he can give on her father and their last battle together. Spensa's supposed to be 17 years old as well, but I feel like she reads a lot younger. Like I said, her behavior felt like more middle grade. Like, I've never met I've been 17 before as well, but never met anyone as immature as she is and as defiant as she is. It's actually really fucking annoying. But because of all these things, I'm actually starting to think that maybe she's on the spectrum, because that would make sense. The behavior, the social cues, the not being able to read social cues, not being able to react. We have a scene where Bim, the one guy who passed away, actually, he flirts with her and she just throws out one of her warrior quotes again, and it just makes absolutely no sense. He's just like looking at her like, what the fuck? And walks away, and she's like, oh shit, I think he was flirting with me. It just, yeah, maybe she's on the spectrum, and if it's read like that, then everything makes sense, especially her just spitting random facts like that. The last point I have is that, okay, the politics in the world building. I feel like the politics in this world have been deliberately buried or discarded of to kind of brainwash them into thinking that the Krill are dangerous. For some reason, I feel like there is more significance to the Krill or these alien beings, and I feel like they're not aliens. I feel like they might actually be just another clan or human race, but I don't know. I feel like something dodgy is going on there, because there's a lot of records that have just been miraculously lost that I feel shouldn't have been. Like, some of their history is just gone, and that makes no sense because they've existed on this planet for around 80 years. So what the fuck is going on with that ship that was been there for 150 years? That's how far I've gotten so far. I will get back to you guys when we get to part 4. Hopefully there won't be too much information and I can summarize them a little bit more. But that's kind of what happened. And let me know what you think. And if you read this, I'm very excited to keep reading and see what I think. Hello everyone, my battery's on 1 bar, so I'm going to try and do this as quickly as possible. But we're here for a check-in for Skyward by Brandon Sanderson. I'm pretty sure you already know that, and I'm pretty sure I said it in the previous part, but just bear with because it's been a while since I last checked in. I think I checked in last week Wednesday and today is Monday. I've made it to part 4 and I'm on page 304, so approximately 60% through. I'm losing steam. I'm going to give you my thoughts first. I'm losing steam. I'm finding it very monotonous, like the same thing is happening over and over. It feels like there's no progression, like everything's just happening really slowly. We're still in flight school, we're still trying to figure out what happened, and it's like the same thing is just constantly happening over and over and over again, and I'm getting a little bit bored. But I did hear that Brandon Sanderson can do that, so I'm thinking maybe the next 10 to 20% will be much of the same, and then it will pick up from there and we'll kind of know what the fuck the book is even about. Because right now I'm trying to figure out, is it about Spensa trying to break this mold of what everybody's calling her and the stereotype about cowardice, or is it about the krill? I don't know what it's about at the moment. I'm just following Spensa, obviously, so it feels more like a character study more than a plot-driven book. That's just kind of how I'm feeling at the moment. But this is what happened in part 3, chapters 20 to 29. Firstly, we get an interlude, which is from the Admiral's point of view. So the Admiral is like the chief. I'm pretty sure I said that. She's a real hard ass. I don't know, her thought processes are very different. And I know she's hiding something concerning Spensa's father. She thinks that cowardice is a defect and it is a genetic defect, so it is inherited from birth. So like I said, they put stuff in Spensa's helmet to see her brainwaves. Not many people approve of this theory. They think that it's bullshit, which obviously it is, and I think cowardice is circumstantial. But anyway, she's dead set on getting Spensa out of here because she doesn't want anyone else to get hurt because Spensa might be a coward, which seems really dumb because she sends people into battle every single day against the krill and they die. Then we move on to the chapter 20, where obviously we're following Spensa again. So she finally makes another friend. Her name is FM, and FM seems like a really rounded person, more so than anybody else, even though she comes from like the more wealthier side of, I can't even remember what it's called now, pregnancy brain, but she comes from the more wealthier side of things, so they are deeper down in the cavern, so they're protected if a bomb hits. She doesn't believe the same politics as everybody else does. She thinks that it's all bullshit and it's brainwashing, and she wants to stand up for the little people, and that's why she's in flight school. She was actually forced because her parents are like part of the first families, so she's forced into that, and she was like, you know what, I'm going to use my position for good to stick up for the little guys. So she befriends Spensa so that she can help her and be supportive towards her and just let her know that there is someone on her side. It's called Ingenious? Is that what it's called? I just remembered now. Ingenious. I think that's what the planet is called that they're on. Spensa finally gets a moment alone with Cobb, who is Mongrel, who was her father's ex-flightmate and shot her father down. So she gets a minute alone with him and she is like, is there any way you can tell me what happened that day with my dad? Like, I don't understand how this happened or why anybody is saying what they're saying, because I don't believe it. I saw him before he went into battle. He was down to, clown. No, he was down to like fight and all this stuff. I don't understand why he would abandon his post. Cobb gives her the same story that is written in the report, and they were given the official report, but he kind of hints to the fact that some of it isn't true. He's just hinting. He's never said anything. It's not concrete, and this obviously gives Spensa some kind of vindication because she knew her father hadn't done that, but everything I feel is monitored. So Mongrel or Cobb, he cannot tell her exactly what happened, and I think she's now trying to investigate it, or he wants her to. I'm not entirely sure, but he does hint that things aren't as they seem and what happened didn't happen. We also find out that his wing leader, is that what it's called, or flight leader, was Ironside, which is the current admiral, which is obviously this chief that doesn't want Spensa there. So she was his flight leader. So we don't know what exactly happened there. So after they do like some flight drills and stuff like that during a lesson, they start speaking about, the people who passed away and how, it's affected different people differently, and some people have the opinion that mourning is weakness, and other people are in the light that, you need to mourn the people that have passed. Spence just doesn't feel right about anything, and she doesn't know how to deal with these emotions. So she gets up out of her flight or her simulation, and she wants to just have a timeout. But Jorgen, he is busy doing a roll call, and he kind of butts heads with her, gets in her face, and she ends up beating him up. She literally punches him in the nose, then the stomach, then freaking kicks his legs out under him, and he's sprawled on the floor. But all the teammates had seen, and she realizes she just fucked up really big, because he is really famous in this flight school, and his family are really, really high up. And if he says anything, there's no way she's not getting expelled. So she kind of flees and just needs to take a time out. And then everything comes back to her, and she's like, why am I so fucking impulsive? But it's a bit late for that. And while she's mulling all this over, she decides, you know what? She's going to turn herself in, because it's better than Jorgen doing it. She'll beat him to it. She's not a coward. She will go and admit to her mistake. So she goes and seeks out the Admirable. But luckily, the Admirable is actually with Jorgen. So when she goes and tries to admit to what she's done, Jorgen pulls her aside and is like, bro, no, what are you doing? And she's like, well, I'm going to do it before you do. I don't want you to have this in your back pocket. And he's like, bro, I wasn't going to do anything. I wasn't going to say anything. I didn't like the way you behaved, but I know that I antagonized you. So let's just forget about it. I cannot lose another teammate. And we kind of figure out that he's not as bad as he initially seemed. And he actually cares about his teammates, and he really doesn't want to lose another one. We also then kind of find out why she says these weird things that were really pissing me off in the beginning. These bravado, like, I don't know, just these weird sayings. And she's really done it on purpose, because it makes people not want to talk to her and leave her alone, because she's been bullied and chastised her whole life, obviously, because of her dad's reputation. She puts on this whole bravado act so that people would just leave her alone. So it kind of makes sense in that sense. And she's not doing it as much now, but it was still really annoying in the beginning when you didn't know why she was doing what she was doing. We then move into them actually going up to fly real crafts. Like, they upgraded from the simulations, and they're going to fly drills in real life. And of course, the Krill decide to attack on this day. So they kind of get in the mix of things. 3 of them take fire, and they end up winning. Like, Himmelin is like the best shot ever, and she ends up getting him out the sky, or this jet that was trying to tail them. She ends up killing him, and they end up like winning, victorious. But then they're told to retreat, and Ned, one of their flight mates, actually was like, okay, you guys all retreat. I'm going in because I need to help them. Spencer's like, you're not going by yourself. Absolutely not. Like, we're so inexperienced. How are you going to do this? So she follows him into this big space station, because the Krill are escorting this big space station, and it's got like bits and parts that they could possibly use, but the Krill obviously don't want the humans to get them. So they're escorting this debris that's falling. You can actually fly through the station. So Ned's following these planes, these pilots who are part of their team, who are being attacked by and chased by Krill. Spencer's trying to help him. They're trying to lance, but they're so inexperienced, they're actually not even achieving anything. And then Mbot, who is her little spaceship in the cavern, actually ends up hacking their communication system. So he contacts Spencer, and he can track her as well, but he's like incognito, so no one knows. And he kind of informs her that, yo, this is like a suicide mission. The Krill are actually planning to bomb this thing, and you're inside it. So you better get out in the next how many ever minutes, or you're going to die. So they've bombed and rigged this thing up so that they can't use the parts that are salvageable. So she ends up, telling Ned, like, they need to retreat. Like, they're not achieving anything, and they need to get out before they go down with this piece of debris. And Ned calls her a coward for doing this, and she's obviously pissed off about it. But anyway, Embot helps her get out and navigate back to safety. They end up using so much G-force that like they almost pass out, and they actually make it, and the whole debris blows up. When they land, Jorgen is there, obviously in her face, and he's like, you're so irresponsible, you're always disobeying orders, you're so disrespectful. And she's like, yo, wait a minute, like, I was following Ned in because he felt like he needed to rescue these people. And she tells him the whole story, and he realizes, shit, okay, runs after Ned, and she runs after him, and they find out that the reason why Ned went back is to help 2 fighter jets, because it was 2 of his brothers, and they didn't end up making it. So Ned ends up dropping out, and they're down to 4 teammates that are no longer on their flight team. And after all of that, Spencer's really deeply affected by this. Like, she wanted to help Ned, and she was the only one who went after him. She didn't realize that it was her brothers, and maybe she could have done more. Maybe she could have got Embot to hack into their communication systems and get them to get out or whatever. And she just feels really guilty about this, and she's really like down and whatever. And as she's leaving the campus to like go back to her cave for the night, Kimmerlin intercepts her and kind of sneaks her into their dorm room. And they end up having like a little girly sleepover. They get food. Well, they pretend to be sick, so they get food sent to their room and they share it with her, get her some blankets on the floor, and she's so happy because she's never really felt a part of it. And she's been jealous the whole time that they all get to bond and she needs to go home every day or leave the premises every day. For her, she wants to do this every day. Like, she wants them to sneak her in every day, but at the same time, she doesn't want them to get into any sort of trouble or bring them into her drama. They end up staying up at like all hours of the night, whatever. They fall asleep. She wakes up super early and decides to leave because she really doesn't want anyone else to get into trouble because she's just bonded with these girls to a level where she cares about them so much. So as she's leaving, she gets intercepted, of course, by a guard who takes her to the Admiral's office, and the Admiral's like, so you're supposed to leave the premises every day and you didn't last night. What, have you dug a little hidey hole for yourself and stealing food from everybody? Is that what you're doing? I suggest you leave now before anything bad happens. And she's like, excuse me, what? And she's like, yeah, I want you to leave. I think you're a coward. You're from a family of cowards and you're just bringing everybody else down. So I suggest you leave. And that is when Spensa clicks that the Admiral has just shown her hand. She can't expel her because she's done nothing wrong. She has deprived of food, deprived of housing. And if anybody finds out about that, the Admiral will be, put on trial or whatever for that, for the way she's treating her, which is unfair because everybody deserves a right to at least try. She can't kick her out. So she wants Spensa to leave on her own accord so that she can push this narrative that all cowards are the same and they're all born and bred from the same family. So she wants to push that narrative, and Spensa now knows this. So I think she kind of has the upper hand. And that is where we end off. We have two more parts. We have part 4 and part 5. Part 4 is quite long. It's about 155 pages. So I'm pretty sure it will take me a while. And I have some other videos planned. So I'm not entirely sure when I will check in with you guys. But this is part 4 here. And then that is part 5, which is the final part. Let's see what happens because I'm curious. I really am. I don't think it's bad writing. I just feel like it's too YA for me. But it's sci-fi. I don't get on well with sci-fi. So it's understandable. And I can understand all the jargon and stuff that they're using. So I think if it was more adult, I would have struggled to understand things. The character just feels very young. However, like I said, it does feel like wash, rinse, repeat right now because the same things are just happening and we're not moving forward. We're not moving the plot along. I don't know. I don't know where it's going. That's kind of my feelings right now. I'm going to go off and start another video, like I said, and I will let you guys know when we're done part 4 and move on to part 5. Actually feels like winter today. I'm freezing. I didn't think I would be, so I just popped a blanket on and I'm sitting on the other side. The couch is over there, so I just thought we'd unlock a new little sitting place because I've been using the same one. I have sat here before, but I just haven't done it for a while. Sorry if you can see my reflection in there. It's quite distracting as well. I have an update. So I haven't read this, I want to say in about a week, it's about a week I haven't read. And then last night I had some time and this morning and I just flew through this. It's so easy to read. It's actually crazy. I didn't think it would be. And we only have a tiny little bit there, which is part 5, which obviously we'll cover as soon as I'm done. I thought we'd do a little debrief quickly. Again, I have a lot to say. Look at all of that. But this covers chapters. Why did that not change? It didn't change because I printed the wrong thing. So give me a moment just to go print that out because I printed the completely wrong thing. So I finally got the correct page, but still there is a lot on there. It's probably the same as part 3. So I'd expect it to be as long as that. I hope this video makes sense. It's the first time I'm doing this and doing any kind of spoilers, and I think it's fun for me as well, just to kind of analyze and kind of summarize what the book is about. I don't know, I think it's really fun and it's something different from what I normally do. But let's go ahead and get started. So this part is from chapter 30 to 47. That is 17 chapters, which is quite a bit, and it was quite a lengthy bit of the book. I think it was the biggest chunk of the book as well. I do feel like the pacing of the book is really slow and it is very, very repetitive, but it's not difficult to understand. And I was scared because I just don't normally read from a lot of male authors. I've read from Alex Michaelides, Stephen King. I think I've read Dan Brown maybe once. Didn't love that. I'm not really a fan of reading male authors in general, so made me scared going into this. And because a lot of people say that he writes a lot of high fantasy, it made me but when I saw this book at my library, I thought why not? Let's just try it out and we'll see. As far as that goes, I think that I would want to read on in the series because I'm curious. curious. I'm very, very curious. I have seen like a lot of like repetition and plot holes, but I'm not sure if that's there for a reason. Let's start off. So we start off with another interlude from the Admiral, and I think it's been every part. Like the first chapter is always her point of view, and she's literally still dead set that Spensa has this defect and she needs to be removed from the program. But the main doctor on this case, because they've put those things in her helmet, absolutely not. Like we all know that it's a myth that they defect. Every defect will react in a different way. It's not like they're all just exactly the same. So you need to give her a chance. The Admiral is fighting against that, but so far she hasn't got her way, and that was our interlude. Mbart is also finally fixed. Oh my gosh, he has not everything, but he has the main components of what he needs to fly, and him and Spensa actually go up into the air because he has some special technology that can shield him from being detected. So she takes him up in the air, and it's actually a really nice depiction of the two of them bonding, even though he is a machine, a sentient item. Like he just talks and he engages with her, and it feels sort of real, even though he's AI trained. I really do like his personality and the relationship the two of them have. Spensa, however, is trying to convince him to like join battles. Like she thinks that they can go in like incognito and he can help their side out because his technology is so much more advanced than the Alta base is, and he has better radar, he has better scanners, so she thinks that he should step in, but he cannot override the command that his previous captain gave him. So unfortunately he's just not set on that. He doesn't even have any guns or any weapons on him, so he doesn't see how he would benefit going into a fight. After a few like battles and discussions and trainings and stuff, Spensa's slowly starting to realize that being a coward, as they put it, is not really a choice. It's not a choice that you make like, today I'm going to be cowardly. It's actually just something that happens because in this stressful situation, like being a fighter pilot, it's like you get put in positions where emotions are high and your responsibilities are astronomical because everybody's fate is in your hand, your teammates' fates are in your hand, and if you were to defect, it would be because you were trying to survive. It wouldn't be because you were being a coward. It's not that you don't want to protect anyone, it's just your body's fight or flight, and she's slowly starting to realize that. And for me, that just showed her character growth, that she's slowly starting to understand that things aren't so black and white as she assumed they were. Then we go into more simulations and them training, and this one day they do this really long training day. Like they just go on forever and ever, and everybody's absolutely exhausted, and she's making her way back to the cave. Obviously she has like a 30-minute hike, and she's midway there and her radio goes off, and it's a call to arms, and everybody needs to report back base and get in a craft and help out in this combat. And it is a huge thing, but everybody is exhausted in her flight team, but they all make it back, and she ends up getting into a craft and helping out. However, this battle is the biggest one they've ever been a part of. All of them in her flight team are obviously inexperienced and have never experienced this level of fighting and battle, and their input is actually worth nothing, and they end up losing another team member due to their inexperience. And it was one of her friends whose name was Hurl. She was actually against her in the last part. She was not against her, but she was wary of her because of her reputation. They actually became closer again. She gets blown out of the sky, and as they all land and start to get together, Spensa passes out. I don't know if it is the stress or the fatigue, but she ends up passing out, and she wakes up in medical, and she finds out that they've now been put on medical leave. They have 7 days to just deal with the grief and what is going on. And this was actually put in place by the same doctor who won't let Spensa get kicked out, because this doctor believes that grief is obviously a symptom of the battle and whatever, and you cannot give your full attention if you are grieving. So they're all sent on medical leave, but they don't know what the fuck is they're gonna do. Like, they'd rather just carry on living training rather than, sitting around doing nothing. Anyway, they all convene in the classroom to kind of debrief and, discuss what's going on. And Cobb or Mongrel, their instructor, comes in and he starts chewing them out because none of them needed to die. No one needed to die. Like, if your craft is going down, you need to eject. It doesn't make you a coward. It's just valuing your life more than a spacecraft, because spacecrafts can be made, but like your life, you only get one life. He is trying to drill into them that it is okay to eject. Yes, you won't get your coat of arms or whatever. You'll still have your life, and the pilot license or whatever is not the main issue here. Your life is way more important. So he gets really irate with them and just wants them to really understand that if you are in danger, if your craft is going down, eject. After all of that, unfortunately, Kimmerlin, which was one of her first quirky weird friends, she ends up dropping out. She just doesn't see herself in this position. It's too dangerous. It's too much responsibility, and she has too much guilt around it now because she was trying to back Hurl Hurl up while Hurl was in a battle, and she was meant to shoot down this craft, but she missed, and the craft ended up shooting Hurl, unfortunately. So Kimberlyn just can't do it. Emotionally, she cannot do it. She can't put herself in danger anymore, and she never wanted it anyway. She's just one of the first families, so she was kind of forced to do this. She's at the end of her road, and obviously this hit Spence really hard. Kimberlyn was basically one of her best friends in this whole group. After they're dismissed and stuff, Spencer kind of asks Cobb like what's going to happen to Hurl's body, and he says, well, Salvage and Recovery need to go get her, but because they are so busy and this has been like one of the biggest battles in a long time, it will take a while for them to access her body. And then she decides she's going to go and give her pilot burial, but it's like 80 kilometers away or something like that. I don't remember the exact length, but it's like a 5-day trek, and because she doesn't have a craft, so she's going to go by foot and recover Hurl's body and give her a proper burial, which is really sweet but also really dumb. So she takes off. She has some like rat meat in her backpack and some waters, and she's praying that she will survive. And while she's on her way there, Jorgen, I don't know how to pronounce his name, he kind of pulls up beside her, and he's like, just get in. And he's in his car, and he's like, get in, I'll get us there in like an hour, as opposed to you walking for 5 days. And she's like, well, why are you doing this? And he's like, well, I respect your choice for wanting to do this, and I think it's a really nice gesture to, you know, give Hurl what she deserves and whatever. So he ends up taking her to the crash site, or the crash site, and the two of them kind of bond. So their ritual is basically just dousing them in like kerosene and lighting them on fire in their craft. So they end up doing that, and while they're watching, Spencer clicks that this is a wreckage and Mbot still needs parts, so she should be salvaging this, which is illegal because obviously anything that's salvaged from that is part of the altar base's property. But anyway, she ends up getting this part that she needs for Mbot, and Jorgen actually helps her, and he transports it back to her cave so that they can put it on Mbot. Although he doesn't know about Mbot, he was just like, I'm just gonna say that you're grieving and that's why you're doing this, but I'm not gonna ask any question, and I don't want to know what you're doing with it. But at least he helps her, and that's like a little bonding experience for them. So they kind of become a little bit closer after that. Then after a couple of days on her medical leave, and she's like in this cave alone with Mbot and whatever, and she's just like going out of her mind because she's just had too much time to think. So she ends up going back to the base, and she goes to talk to Cobb, and she's like, I'm so bored. I know we can't fly. I know we can't go in our simulations, but is there any way I can access like some old battle tape so that I can, you know, analyze the battles and just like keep it going, because I can't just sit here with idle hands. She expects him fully to say like no, but he says yes, and he gives her access to the archive, which is off limits to students. So he gives her his access code, and he kind of knows what she's looking for. But anyway, she goes, and obviously she grabs her dad's tape, puts it in her pocket, and actually is about to leave campus or the base, and she's intercepted by FM, which is the last other female left in their flight team right now. And she intercepts her and is like, come with me. And she takes her to this restaurant, and Ned and Arturo and all the people who dropped out, and Kimberlyn as well, are all there. And she's so happy to see everybody like together, because obviously she doesn't live on base and she doesn't get to like bond with them. And it's a really nice experience for her. They get her some food and drinks. She can't afford it, but they obviously pay for it. And she's like having the best time. One of the guys has his girlfriend there as well. When this girlfriend goes to the toilet, they start talking about like different conspiracy theories and what they think is really going on. Like, how have they lived on this base for so many years and they still don't know what the enemy looks like, what the enemy is capable of, what's above the debris belt. Like they kind of talk about that, and it gets everybody's minds going. But then Spencer obviously makes an excuse to leave, so because she's got this thing in her pocket and it's burning a hole. So eventually she leaves and she goes back to her cave, and in the craft she asks Mbot to play this tape for her, and she watches her dad's battle. And even though it's not what she expected, it's even worse than she expected. So what she expected, the cowardly thing of her dad, it's much worse. It's much, much worse. And now it's hit something really, really hard in her, and she's grieving all over again. She goes back to school after her medical leave, graduated from simulations now, and they're just practicing on real crafts, and they're doing scouting and different formations, and just like trying to kind of get in the swing of things of having an actual real craft. But once they all land, they end up losing another teammate. He's pulled from the program by his parents because they just feel like it's a little bit too dangerous, because they're quite wealthy and high up in society, so they don't want to lose their son, so they pull him from. So now they're down to 3 teammates. Like, there's only 3 of them left in this flight flight group, and it's really hit her hard. But they're given some time off because they are graduating soon. So she decides finally to go visit her parents. It's been like 4 months, not her parents, but her mom and her gran. And it's been like 4 months since she's last seen them. And her mom actually thinks that she's been like kicked out or something. So her mom's like trying to get her to like jump in and sell stuff with her. And she's like, no, I actually came to talk to you because I need some answers, really feeling a sort of way. So she tries to talk to her mom, but her mom's dead set, like, your dad was not a coward, he was a hero, and I won't hear anything. I know it was a cover-up, I know something else happened that no one's telling us, but he would never be a coward, he would never like abandon his post or whatever. She's just dead set. So Spencer's like, okay, whatever, and she goes to speak to her granny, and her gran's super cryptic. This woman's like really weird. She's like a witch doctor, I swear. She's so weird, and she just talks in like different riddles, and she's super cryptic. I didn't even really understand what she was trying to say about her son, but as far as I know, she also doesn't think that her son defected. She thinks that he had something else going on, and they have like this higher power that speaks through them, and they are the only people who can defeat the Krill and also carry the society on. Like, no one can survive without them. So and she tells about the history of how they got there and how her mother was like one with the engines, and like I don't know, it all was a bit, it went over my head, and I was like, I don't get it. It doesn't make sense to me. But no one wants to believe that her father could have done anything in that regard. All of that and all this talk and all the crypticness and all of it is leading to Spensa having an existential crisis, or just like an identity crisis as well. It's like she doesn't know what to believe, she doesn't know who to believe, she doesn't know who she is, she doesn't know what she wants to do, she doesn't know anything anymore. Like, everything is just a lie, everything is a cover-up, doesn't understand, she doesn't know where to go from here, and she's so scared that she's going to be like her father and end up defecting as well. So there's a lot riding on her. She's started seeing things and hearing things that aren't really there, and she's now like, fuck, I'm going to be like him, and she wants to just quit because, you know, what the fuck, like, if she's going to do what her dad did, then it's better to just quit now. And Jorgen actually convinces her to just fly. I mean, you can fight it, you're a strong person and you are not your father. But then, like I said, it's like a couple of weeks before they graduate, they go up with another flight team. Since they're only 3, they go up and practice with this other team, and they scouting and doing all these things and salvaging, and they fly up a little bit higher than they're supposed to because they could see destructors or guns going off in the sky, and they end up engaging again with Krill. Obviously, it keeps happening. Every time they fly into the sky, I swear there's a battle. It's like, it's constant, I swear to God. So predictable. So they fly up and whatever, do their thing, and then they call in that they've just engaged with Krill and whatever, and they're told to disengage and kind of go down and meet the other flight squad, and they do that, and they get into a battle again, which they can't take, and Spensa takes fire and is shot out of the sky. She's spiraling, and everybody's like, eject, and she's like, I shouldn't, I don't want to be a coward, I don't want to be like my father, but also I don't want to die, and she ejects. Unfortunately, due to this, it's inevitable, but she's dismissed from flight school. And that is where we end part 4. So sad, shame, she's worked so hard, but I think she wasn't even sad when it happened. She just got out of, well, she was rescued after her ejection, is that even a word? After she ejected, she is collected and whatever by the medical team, checked out, she goes onto base, and the admiral is there, and they salute each other. The admiral takes her pin off her overalls, gives it to her in her hand, and it's like, you can keep this, it's an honor to have made it as far as you have, but unfortunately it's just the rules. If you eject, you unfortunately cannot become a full-blown pilot. And she takes it with the little knock on the chin. Her lips don't wobble or anything, so pretty strong for that. And that's how far we've got. So I'm so excited to see what happens in this last part, because she's obviously not gonna fly anymore. I forgot to mention, I don't know why, if I missed it, but at some point Mbot shut himself down as well. He's too scared that Vince will make him fight, so he deactivated himself completely, so she no longer has that. Also, in a part, how did I miss that? There's a part as well where Spensa is allowed back on base, so she gets housing and food it's just a couple of weeks before she's dismissed. It's a lot riding on this. I'm trying to figure out where this is going, but I can't figure it out. I did write like as a small thought that we're constantly being reminded that they need to guard the city. Like, every time there's a life bomb, they're like, our city, our first priority is the city, and like, that's pretty fucking obvious. That's why we have armies, is to protect our countries and and stuff, and they keep bringing it up, and I don't know if it's just for like an effect to make it like so important that if they need to, or if it's a plot point and there's actually a reason for it and there's something gonna come out of that, like maybe it's a lie, I don't know. But I feel like the repetitiveness of it is like too crazy, too hectic. I'm not entirely sure. That is everything we learned in the last part. I hope that was interesting. My voice is going in and out. It's a pregnancy symptom that I'm so bunged up and dehydrated, and my voice just sounds really, really croaky. Sorry about that. But yeah, I'm going to finish this today. I'm about to go on I need to film something else, and then I am going on the treadmill. I'm going to read a couple of chapters, and then I'm going to my bedroom, read a couple of chapters until I'm done, and then we'll finish this up tomorrow, because this video has been going on for 2 weeks. It's been so fun, and I am actually really liking Brandon Sanderson's writing. I don't like the repetitiveness of it, and some things that he says is redundant. I feel like because he repeats himself so much, it's so easy to read and so easy to follow. So I'm excited to see what else I want to read from him. I want to read Tress of the Emerald Sea. That's a standalone, so I think that might be interesting. That is it for now, guys. I will see you hopefully tomorrow for the final part, and we'll see what we think. So far, I think this is sitting at a 4-star. It's a really good, like, engaging book, but we'll see. But with that being said, I shall see you guys hopefully tomorrow. I swear this video has taken me over a month to film, and there's just been a lot going on. I've been filming a bunch of other things as well. So this last part has been left maybe 2 weeks after I finished the book. So I'm so sorry about that. I'm going to be a little bit scattered, a little bit chaotic, but this is the final part. I have notes so that I don't forget. We're on part 5, which covers chapter 48 to the epilogue, the end. So we start off again with an interlude from the Admiral, which we have been every single time we get to a new part. And in this part, there is a huge piece as well. It's basically a space station that is dropping from orbit. They want to salvage it, and the Admiral, she thinks that this will change everything for them because it has so much salvageable parts and the parts that they need to build more ships. She literally wants this captured at all costs. So she's sending all troops out. It is confirmed and approved by the council. Then we obviously move on back to Spensa after the Admiral has had her bit. It's graduation day. As I said before, Spensa now is kicked out of the program, and she goes to support her 2 friends that are left in the program, and she's sad, but she's also really happy to see them go. However, graduation doesn't go as expected. Usually the Admiral gives this long, boring speech, and there's lots of processions, but this time it's really quick. They get their wings and whatever, and then they all shoot off. So she kind of is like, what the fuck is going on? This is not normal. So she tries to follow them, and she runs into Cobb, who was her old instructor. He's like, you know what? They're actually on a mission, and I think you should jump in. But she then decides to just, let Cobb off easy because he doesn't understand why everything happened, but she does. And she's like, listen, I think I have the defect. I have had the experience of seeing loads of eyes in the sky. I've also heard voices. So unfortunately, I will not be going up to help them because I don't want to lead to anybody getting hurt or myself, going on a suicide mission just like my dad. He looks at her funny, but he gets it, and he just like walks away from it because he asked her to let him know if she ever did feel anything, and she did. There's no way that they can go from there, and he actually is very scared of what this means for her. After all of this, she runs into her old flight mates, that ones that either dropped out or got kicked out. They all decide to go back to this restaurant that they went to before to celebrate and find out what's going on. Arturo, who is one of their founding families, he's quite wealthy. He has a radio that can actually tune in to the flight team, and they can hear what goes on. So she decides to go with them so they can follow on what is going on in this battle, as their whole platoon basically has gone off on this mission. After finding out that the platoon is not doing so well, they decide to steal Arturo's family's ships. He has like 2 or 3 ships, I think, as his family are, like I said, wealthier, but they have it in reserve for when they need to evacuate. So he's like, you know what, we do have it, let's just borrow my parents' ships. And they invite Spensa, obviously, because they want her to fly, and Kimberlin's like, I'm not good at this stuff, like like, you go, Spensa, you're so good at this, you're good at strategy, you're good at flying, you go. And she's like, absolutely not. But she doesn't want to let them know that she has this defect, but she's argued her way into like not going, and Kimberlyn ends up going because she's the best shot if they needed to shoot. There's a spider or something hovering here, but if they needed to shoot someone down, they think that Kimberlyn would be best. So they run off. She stays at the restaurant still listening to the radio, but then she can't do it anymore. She finds out that they are in trouble and she goes to find a ship. Unfortunately, she takes a broken ship. I don't know if it's not Arturo or Ned, but one of them was shot down and their proclivity ring wasn't working properly, as well as the shield was down. It's the only ship she can find, so she decides to jump in it and actually join in the action. Unfortunately, because she has no shield, she is shot down. But as she's going down, she doesn't want to eject. She's like, you know what, fuck this, I already fucked up, I'm not going to inject, I'm going to try and crash land the ship. And she ends up actually succeeding. She hits the ground hard, but it doesn't explode or lead to her death. But as she is trying to get out of the ship, because obviously it's all mangled now, she's trying to get out of it and the krill are coming at her. They want to obviously make sure that she's dead and that the ship isn't just down, so they are chasing after her. And in this moment, she sees a ship flying towards her, and it's no one other than Cobb flying Mbot. Cobb didn't want to get in the aircraft, but somehow Mbot had contacted him and he, I don't know, made a plan to fly him. So he flies Mbot to Spensa. Mbot has rewritten himself in order to have a new master, so he can now go into battle. Spensa is his pilot. However, even though Mbot has, you know, reprogrammed himself and stuff, he doesn't have any like actual guns or anything like that, so he is kind of useless. But she still thinks that she can somehow maneuver and make him win this for them, because like I said, all the platoon are at the space station, but it's kind of what the krill wanted. They wanted all of them to be there so they could bomb their headquarters. Everybody's panicking now because there's no one to protect their headquarters, and all their little stations where they have like guns and missiles and stuff are being taken out by the krill. So Spensa jumps into action and kind of tries to lure them away. And in the end, they kind of end up defeating them. They shoot some down, they mislead some others, and then they kind of retreat. They try to bomb them, but Spensa does something. She actually ends up saving their whole unit, or whatever you want to call it. After the battle though, she sees a gap in the sky, the same as she did in the beginning with her father, a gap in the debris, and she wants to fly up and see what's out there the same way her dad did. The admiral who's in communication with her is like, absolutely not, don't do it, like this is very dangerous, we don't know what can happen, you have the defect, you don't want to end up like your father, you've just defeated this battle for us, like what are you doing? But she decides to do it anyway, and Mbot agrees with her. They end up going up, and as she's entering the orbit, she realizes that everything they taught that was up there and told and was depicted is absolutely wrong. It's completely different from what has happened or what has been told to them. She now understands what happened to her father. When she goes up there, they try to mind control her. I don't know how it works, but they try to tap into her brain and she can feel it, and she starts screaming and she's like, no, what the hell is going on here? And Mbot puts his shield up. He has like a special shield which is called like stealth mode. So he goes into stealth mode and this cuts them off completely. And that is how her father went crazy. They kind of hypnotize you / tap into your brain and make you see images that aren't real and that aren't there. So that's what happened to her dad. He wasn't a defect. Well, I guess it is a defect because you kind of have that bit of your brain that's open and can be altered. She now knows so much more about what is going on than anybody else has ever been able to tell. So she disengages and goes back down, calls a meeting with the admiral, and is going to tell them all what the hell is going on. And it's really not what anybody expected. So basically, and this is a full spoiler video and I didn't want to put too many spoilers in it, but basically what happened was that the krill are an alien race and they have gathered all the humans in one spot because they're actually imprisoned, because humans are weak and they are easily malleable and easily influenced and stuff like that. So their planet that they're living on is actually a prison, and all the krill are there for population control and to not let any of them escape. Spensa knows something more than this and she has a plan to take them down, which I guess is in the next book. So that is everything I learned from the book. I had fun. I really had fun reading this. I didn't think I would like it, but I actually ended up really loving Brandon Brandon Sanderson's writing. It's so easy to understand. It's so easy flowing. And I don't know if it's because it's YA or just because I read it at the right time, but I had such a good time. And I think I'm going to settle on a 4.25. I had so much fun, like I said. The main female character did piss me off at a lot of parts, but ultimately, I think she grew a lot as a character. I'm actually really surprised that it wasn't the world building or the politics or anything that intrigued me. It was mostly Spensa because, like I said in the beginning, I hated her so much and I found her so frustrating and so annoying, especially with the bravado and the saying stupid things. But when you learn more about her, it kind of makes sense and you kind of follow this whole character arc. And I feel like it is more about her as a character than it is about this war and how she deals with things, about being shunned from society and how her and her family are treated like less than, even though everybody is making things up. They actually made it worse, but I guess if they did find out what her dad really did, it would be worse. Just the way everything unfolded was perfect. And by the end of it, I was all for Spensa. I supported her. I found her character growth amazing. I found her maturity a lot better than I did. I think there's going to be a little bit of a love story, if I'm not mistaken. I'm not sure if he does that, but somehow it feels like there might be some I don't know, connection between her and another character, but we'll see in the next book because I definitely will be reading that. This book took me through a lot of emotions as well. Not like a big array of them, but it did. Like I was angry, I was frustrated, I was annoyed, I was sad for her, I felt happy at some parts, and then obviously so relieved when she actually learned how to deal with everything and how to act appropriately and stop being this thing that she was. And she was just trying to hide behind her emotions so that she wouldn't get hurt because of what happened to her father. But with that being said, let me know if you've read Skyward and what you thought about it, what you thought of this video as well. I know it is spoilers and it is for people who have read it. Let me know if your thoughts differ from mine and what you found more intriguing about the book. Was it the science aspect? Was it the space aspect? Was it, like me, Spensa with the characters, or just what opinion you had? I thought it was great, and like I said, I will be continuing the series for sure. I definitely want to read the next book. I want to know what happens to Spensa, and I want to know a little bit more about Brandon Sanderson and his writing because I'm really curious. I want to read Tress of the Emerald Sea as well. That looks really good. I don't want to read more of his dense, thicker books because I just don't get on with thick books, but I thought this was the perfect starting point. But let me know what you guys think and if you recommend any of these other books. I know this is called The Way of Kings or something that everybody likes. That series just looks too dense for me. With that being said, thank you so much for watching. Like I said, let me know what you think about this in the comments down below. Please remember to go and check out my Instagram as well as my Fable and Goodreads, and I'll see you all very soon in my next one. Bye guys.